So if it's good with you, what I'd like to do, and be upfront here, just so you see, I am recording. We're just internal use. We just want to make sure that we're kind of hearing everything and being able to double check. But is that okay on your end?
It is. Yes. Sure. Thanks.
Cool. And so what I'd like to do is have Josh describe the Harris Digital product, which the whole goal is really to work with small and mid-market manufacturers who haven't yet updated to sort of the Industry 4.0 in terms of being able to measure their device runtime and reliability and the various efficiencies that both the device and people create. And so I'd love to have Josh sort of give an overview of the Harris Digital product, and then get into a conversation with you. And ultimately, really first is kind of your reaction. Where do you see, or do you see a place for this in the market? Just so I kind of lay out a little bit of what the initial hypotheses is so that Harris Digital is a Hungarian company, very reasonably early stage in U.S. entry, but the initial hypothesis is really aiming at injection molding manufacturers as sort of the primary target. And part of what we'd love to ask and learn about are number one, does that seem reasonable? And you may not have total familiarity in that space, but also what other industries might this, or what other areas of manufacturing might this be appropriate for? So if that sounds reasonable, we'll have Josh kind of take over and maybe share a slide or two to give an overview.
That would be great. And Josh, I did go through, at least on a rudimentary level, the website to try to get a little familiarity, but please share your thoughts. And
yeah, sure. So so great. So you went through, and I try to keep things simple for people, just not to, we can get into the weeds of the feature set and what's capable and what's not capable and what's coming and all the rest of it. But I usually like to just use this single flyer and just use this image here, if you can see that. Quite simple. You have a machine that currently maybe you want to monitor and don't have a proper setup to do so, or you have a series of machines, typically between 5 and 20 maybe, that you're looking to track uptime, downtime, cycle time, and reason codes around why there's a downtime or a stoppage in production. So Harris Digital recognized that there was a small and medium-sized market that didn't necessarily have a large cap spend to go out and purchase, a six-figure system that can do all of the bells and whistles that they need. Not to mention the spend upfront, the time it takes to install said equipment, and then also I don't really need all the features. I just need to know this one thing. So Harris Digital said, well, we can do something external that makes it adaptable to pretty much any machine within reason. The most recent success we've had is in the injection molding space, because the mechanism that moves back and forth is relatively slow moving, so it's not high RPM. It's easy placement for this wireless Bluetooth sensor, and typically the machines are really close together, so you can throw out 7, 8, 10 sensors, use a single gateway, which is basically just like a modem that you would have in your house, which is this device here. Mm-hmm. Once the sensor's on and the modem's been connected to the Wi-Fi or to the internet signal, it pushes all this data stream to the cloud, which is captured in a Microsoft Azure space, so very secure. And then we pull that information down into a dashboard that's then configured and delivered to the client. And this is just a nice colorful image of what it looks like. But obviously, if we wanted to dig in a little deeper, did it switch screens for you? Is it loading up?
Yep, looks good.
Yep.
Okay, good, just checking. So this may take a moment to load, but this is live data. There's the company we're working with is Sapona Plastics. It's down in Asheville here in North Carolina, and I went and did the install. It took us 30 minutes to set up 3 machines, plug everything in, and we were flowing data. Within inside 40 minutes, we were flowing data.
All the same machine or three different manufacturers?
Two of the same machines, and then the third one was a little bit larger because it used larger molds. I'm just going to refresh because sometimes my internet connection on Zoom and streaming video can be a little bit wonky.
And not to interrupt your flow here with questions, but one
Sure, hit me.
immediate is the Azure that's at the let's say at the corporate level, the individual clients wouldn't need an Azure cloud relationship, I guess. I mean,
Negative.
Okay,
Nope.
good. Yep.
Everything is managed. That's a great question. Everything is managed through a membership fee. So our business model is a membership fee. We do a pilot program where we say, take 3 sensors for 3 months, all the system that you need to install, see if you like it. If you don't, you can send it back. No harm, no foul. So we offer that as kind of an opening offer. And then long term, this is $100 per machine per sensor, basically. Depending on the number of machines, we can offer volume discounting as well. So if you're going to outfit 20 or 30 or 40 machines, obviously we could reduce the price because we know we're going to have a larger volume. And again, we're really cost conscious to the small and medium sized business, so they're not overpaying for something like this. So this is ultimately what the forward facing dashboard looks like. Right now, there's only 3 machines, but you could imagine 3, 6, 12, 20, however many you needed here. We can easily just zoom out and reconfigure. So we could put this up. We envision this going on a smart TV on the shop floor so people could see the change and how the machines are running. So this is live data. See here, 4:08 p.m. So we're pretty close to being right there. If I go in, click into the machine, obviously I'm going to get a whole nother set of analytics, which includes piece count, which is based off of the cycle. So as it cycles through, we're counting that as one piece, and we're working on some integrations on the back end that allows us to say, okay, each cycle we're actually producing 8 pieces or 12 pieces. So we can calculate that on the backside.
Okay, got it.
Yep. And then we have shift breakdowns, so we can identify which shift is the most productive. This is utilization. So right now, this machine has been steady running in this current shift 100%. So there's been no downtime, and that's based off of the cycle time of the machine.
Is that pulling data from sort of a time card reporting, or is that just they're literally just times, shift times?
It's pulling the data from the sensor. So every time the sensor moves, it detects that vibrational movement. And then we
I'm sorry. I meant for the shifts alone. Is the time for the shift?
Yep. So the shifts you can actually enter in and customize this to whatever you'd like.
Great.
Right now, it's just set up very rudimentary with 3 8-hour shifts during the weekdays, and then the weekends have 2 12-hour shifts. But again, you could adjust this any way you'd like. You could specify it based on holiday schedules, based on the fact that you're only running 2 shifts instead of 3. So you can get really finite about what you're measuring. Or if you're doing a special event and you're like, we want to monitor this one machine for 4 hours and really see what's happening. Yep. You can consolidate that down and say on June 16th, we're going to do this special lean event and we're going to do it for 4 hours. Let's set that up and then let's pull that data after the fact.
Great.
And then from there, this typically takes a little bit to build because it's building the data. I think we have, let's see, the 21st or the 22nd. So shouldn't take so it didn't take too long. So this data here is from one machine, and we can see the average cycle time, 15 seconds, the availability 100%, meaning they didn't have any downtimes, and that's why this function here is not available because there's no. It does show one downtime of a fraction of a second here, I think, or 5 seconds, which is probably the starting the machine up at the beginning of the shift. Could be the case there. And then it goes through each one of the shifts. You can see them over here: afternoon, morning, and here's the summary. And this is also exportable if we wanted to drop it into an Excel, push the data out to wherever we need to push it out to. We could do that as well. I would imagine. I'm not sure about APIs. I know there's a key there's an API key that's available. And if you're familiar with any kind of coding, a lot of times if there's an API key available, that gives you the ability to integrate it into another system.
Feed it directly into
Exactly.
your
Kind of like a plug and play.
ERP.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, so that's pretty much what we've built out to date. There's some other things on the horizon, some insight type matrices that we want to evaluate. And what that'll be is more like, okay, over the course of the last month, we've recognized a downtime that's the same every single month, or every single week rather, or every single shift. We have the same downtime at the same time. This may be an area of concern you want to look directly at. So it gives you the ability to kind of look back on data sets and have somebody run an analytics against it to say, here's what we found. Maybe you will see something different, but it gives them a little bit of them, meaning the operating managers. It gives them a little bit more meat at the end of the month that gives them something to think about. So yeah, so that's pretty much the run of it. I don't want to belabor it too much. It's pretty simple at this point. And again, the goal is to provide a simplified dashboard to recognize uptime, downtime for machines.
Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, simplicity is a great thing. So I think that's one of the problems with a lot of the more comprehensive platforms out there, right? It's intimidating for your customer base. That's SMEs. You're going after the smaller shops and smaller operations, or small to mid-size. It's intimidating to think about this full-fledged integration and with can you get the download of information to Excel? That's usually going to be good enough, right?
Yep.
You don't necessarily need in that size company to be feeding it real time into your ERP system. Obviously it gets a lot more interesting if you can, as you said, or Kelly mentioned as well, maybe looking toward maintenance schedules and yield productivity measures. But I think it's already absolutely, that answers one question. I think it's definitely an attractive solution. Simplicity is good, and that maybe to point toward a question is, I'm assuming then that you're capturing data that is sort of agnostic, meaning that you're able to capture data from any type of equipment, any type of machine, because you're not really getting into the soup and nuts of the machine. You're able to capture that relative data and feed it in pretty quickly.
Correct. It's an external sensor, and we're actually experimenting now in the textiles space, where we're putting the sensor on a sewing machine.
Okay.
And again, part of it is running an algorithm against what the sensor is reading.
So if you could describe that, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I hope it helps to for your answer. I'm thinking about injection molding. You said because the parts are slower moving, the cycle times are. Can you describe that? Is there some relation that I should understand?
Yeah. So the main relation is the current sensor that we offer. Again, is a low cost. It's a low energy consumer, and it's a Bluetooth device, and it has a limit of a 2G movement. So if you move that sensor more than 2 Gs, it spikes and goes beyond. It basically goes outside the scale. Like picture if you were to turn the gain up, if you understand how a microphone works, if you were to turn the gain up really, really high, you blow the speakers out. And that's basically what we're dealing with. We're vetting out a few different and new style Bluetooth sensors that should be able to go beyond that, which would give us an opportunity to have applications where there's faster moving pieces or components of the machine. But with a sewing machine or with a good application evaluation, maybe the sensor doesn't live directly on the moving piece. Maybe it lives near the motor or near a mounting bracket, where it can still pick up that change in frequency when the machine is activated to do a task. As long as we can find that spot, and we've done some experimenting with that, where we're moving it close to the motor, but not right on the motor, because every time the motor fires, that's what triggers the cycle.
Right, right.
So we want to get it towards whatever thing is moving and changing and triggering on the cycle. That's where
So if you're able to do that for the textile application, do you think you'll be able to do it for a more traditional CNC?
that's where we're
measuring
driving
on
the
the
bus.
spindles. Yeah.
That's right. That's where we're driving the bus. And I think ultimately we'd like to find a sensor that is low cost enough where we could actually measure things like RPM, because I think that would be important in the sewing industry. You could picture somebody is like, say they're sewing the hem of a pair of pants, and they're going through a process where I'm doing this leg and then I'm passing it, and I'm doing this leg and then I'm passing it. You could actually measure when the sewing machine is on and operating, and then it's off because they're changing out to the next pair of pants. Now you can measure how long it takes and how consistent they are with changeover from material to material to material.
Okay, that's very interesting. And that's, I guess, when I talk about CNC, the number of machine shops, of course, it's just unbelievable, especially in Connecticut, but really anywhere. So that opens up a whole new avenue. And I am thinking about, there are companies that are targeting, for instance, the CAD and bill of materials type market to target the shops rather than the big broad scale multinationals. And there's definitely a market there. I mean, I can definitely speak to that. Even if you have whatever Solid Edge or SolidWorks, to have a more simplistic serves as a library as well as the actual creativity and being able to build up a bill of materials. So that market and going after that market is, I think, very, very interesting. And you're going to have a whole new range of competition at the bigger levels anyway. But simplicity for the smaller guys, I think a lot of companies go in and try to sell bells and whistles and whatever, but what people just need is the simplicity. So I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can sell simplicity as a feature. It for sure would be nice to really have a little bit more, so you can really, put these machines on maintenance schedules and monitor, as you're intending to do this. You call them insight matrices.
Yeah.
Where you can actually monitor things and get some trend analysis. I think that'd be tremendously useful.
Yeah, and I think ultimately our thinking behind the membership model is to make it accessible and to allow people to take advantage of new feature sets that roll out.
Sure.
Because the traditional software model is every time a new feature comes, guess what? You're going to have to pay for it. So if we can give our early adopters, some insights into, hey, this is coming, this is what's next.
Absolutely.
And then it's going to load in your dashboard and you're going to have access to it. And that's how it's going to work. Whereas maybe the new folks coming in now, instead of $100, it's $110 a month, or the pricing changes as we move forward and as there's more interest. But I think the goal is, once you're on board, we're going to roll out new feature sets that you're going to have access to. We're going to take your insights in what you're looking for, and we're going to go ahead and institute those into a dashboard that you're going to have instant access to. It's not going to be a painful transition to, log out, whatever it is to upload a new piece of software. It's just going to be available. And I mean, that's the GUI environment that we live in with a web app. But this is an example of the matrix and how we want to show somebody, hey, here's the downtime reasons. Here's a breakdown of downtime reasons. Here's your machine activity. And then here's a profile, occurrence frequency versus downtime. And really trying to draw out some insights for them to think a little bit deeper about how they can go on their efficiency journey. Not everybody can afford to pay a consultant to come in and do efficiency training and lean consulting.
It's absolutely the case. This is great. I mean, if you actually, so this is sort of a beta you're working on.
This should be live. These two slides represent what's coming live by the end of July. and then here's some future ideas of like how things could look in terms of occurrence and downtime, and trying to draw additional insights from the data. And I actually challenged the team. I said, it'd be great as well is on the left-hand column here to have a learning gateway, to have a learning tab that somebody could go to and begin to actually learn about how to do a SMED event, or
Got it. Yep.
you know what I mean? Providing them with some more insights, because that's easy stuff. That's just content building, where it would just be, and maybe we turn it into an academy that their operations team could go through, where there's videos and a whole learning module section to it. But at least having the information there so people could understand what we're gathering and why are we gathering this information.
So how's your timing? Because I have a bunch of questions, but I don't want to, you have time for a few questions, or is
I'm okay,
4:30?
Yeah, maybe we could, I'm just thinking, maybe a couple of questions, and then I'd like to get to sort of talk about thoughts about, based on the current feature set, not looking future, but just current feature set. Really two things. One is, are there verticals that we ought to pay attention to? And also, are there organizations, and we're really first focused in Connecticut for sort of the first entry. Josh is down in North Carolina, so he's building that there as well. But thoughts about companies or verticals in this region, and also organizations we ought to be close to. Where, just so you know, we are working with CCAT already. They've in fact, before we even met Harris Digital, they were already working with CCAT. So a really positive thing in Connecticut. But in any event, what questions, and then maybe we can dive into thoughts about verticals.
Okay, that's good. I can maybe steer my questions, because look, Ron Angelo, CCAT is a great organization, and if you're already working with them, there's your real expertise in understanding different interfaces, and so my assumption is that was going to be a question, is working with Profibus or EtherCAT or whatever interface. I guess again, this is non-denominational. You're agnostic in that sense, because you're really applying sensors directly to the machines. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes, sir. Yep. Totally external. Yep. We're agnostic, which I think is a benefit, especially for the smaller guys.
And so, I don't know if it's a question or it's related to statement and thinking out loud here. So, through CCAT, I mean, I've been actually a little bit of a vocal critic about our reliance on Aerospace Alley in this aerospace industry. And so we've got these big government and quasi-governmental dogs that are putting more and more pressure on the small guys. Small guys are, in many cases, there are family businesses or small businesses that have been pushed to the limit. They're being asked to do more. They have less because the big guys are making them do more and thinner margins. So how do they survive is a big question. And, ultimately, I think there's going to have to be a mixture of significant capital investment in things like additive manufacturing. So where I see you playing, and that's probably where you see yourself playing, is bridging a little bit, right? Because these guys need to modernize. They need to squeeze efficiency out wherever they can. And they're not going to be doing it in most cases with a massive capital investment and roadmap. They can do it through collaboration and partnerships, but really they've got to get the efficiency out of their shop. And I can speak, not to send you knocking on Parker Medical's door, but I almost would send you there anyway. I manage them, so I've known them for years. It's a shop that's about 10 million. They bounce around 10 or 12 million in revenue. Let's say 70 to 90 employees, and they're a weird mixture of, let's say, precision machining is almost like a separate. In fact, I kind of separated the business into 5. I won't call them business units, but manufacturing disciplines. They have everything from really a manual process for molding all types of different polymers and mixtures. But they also, and especially during my time, we invested heavily in different injection molding and other technologies. But they also have precision machine shop and whatever, and then a lot of sort of hand assembly and semi-automated, wire stripping, wire cutting, things like this. So you've got all these different shops, and thankfully we signed a lease, and getting all this into one building is already a big efficiency. But then really understanding how to tie as you're doing, you're measuring they guess at productivity, they guess at capacity utilization, both for personnel and for the machines. But then the bridge also between, you've got experts on the machines that understand the machines themselves, but the interface with the quality control department is always a bridge. So the more you can monitor and measure and look at these interruptions and utilization, I think that becomes, and quality people love their dashboards. So you're gathering data now that is simple enough, but useful enough to speak to the quality control. That was the biggest, to speak directly, that was the biggest area for me as a manager to come in and say, not only the disparity of having people located in different shops in different areas, but even within a shop, it's like which machines were being used for which projects. And once I got to the data, it was a no-brainer that we need to invest in a new machine. We had a, I want to say Toyo. What was the machine? Doesn't matter. It was like a 30-year-old machine that was breaking down constantly, but it was related to the biggest project, the biggest customer, General Electric. And it was like insane. But until I had the data, I had to really say, how often was this machine down? What was going on? And that investment in the new equipment, it was just such a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a real world. It's not really a question. It's more a
statement,
affirmation that you.
Yeah, it's a clear statement, and I think that's really where we're headed with this. Is that there's some businesses that are a little farther along in the conversation, and there's some businesses that need to have the conversation. But in order to get everybody to the table, you need to have a litmus test that's accurate. And when this thing is running in real time and you can see that dashboard, there's no denying that this is what's happening.
That's it.
It starts the conversation and it gets everybody thinking about it, on the shop floor as well as in the office. And I think that's the big, when I was in manufacturing, that was the big disconnect, is the people in the shop floor felt like, you can't see what's happening out here. You don't know. All you're doing is pushing orders and you're hoping that it gets done. But you have no idea about the capacity that we actually have the capability of doing. And we had a motto, which was same day, next day. And now it came down from the top. And the owner of the business was like, if somebody places an order today, I want to be able to deliver today. And if it's afternoon, I want to be able to deliver it, worst case, tomorrow. That was his motivator, to try to find the efficiency and do that, just in time manufacturing cycle where we're producing as things are being purchased, because then you basically cut out the overhead, a lot of it anyway, when you can deliver on time when the customer's asking for it.
So I think, you are in the right space. That size customer, they get their differentiator through flexibility and, hopefully innovation and reliability and whatever, but they need to be flexible and fast, and jobs are getting kind of switched around depending on the biggest fire, which is not always the best thing. But just thinking about not only myself, but partners, vendors, and other colleagues in the industry, especially right in Connecticut, it really is a huge opportunity. So North Carolina as well. I mean, no doubt, you have got a similar subset down there. But Connecticut is definitely filled with these aerospace and, of course, related to electric boat, that whole, and it's a huge challenge because and Bill will know this better than anybody, General Dynamic, Electric Boat, these guys, they squeezed so hard and they promised all of these small shops they wouldn't steal their talented workforce, but they did wind up, and so the small guys are really hurting right now. And it's either going to lead to, again, it's impossible for it to lead to the type of capital investment that's necessary to lift that industry up. So you're going to need bridges and new technologies. And I think you got a sweet spot. Too many bells and whistles. So it's totally fine to, in my opinion, to have the story and say, you're beta testing, you're kind of site testing these things, and you won't roll them out until you're absolutely confident that, you've got that sort of reliability, and customers will appreciate that you're not throwing stuff out that's not ready for prime time.
Right. And
Well,
that's yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think, yeah, I would definitely hesitate selling vaporware. But I guess the other reflection is some, not all certainly, but some like being the first. So yeah, it's you had brought up a few minutes ago. You brought up Parker Medical. Would you suggest that we reach out to them directly? What would be, if you think the timing's right and whatnot, what's the best path?
That's a very good question. I would probably, so yes, I think it's reasonable to reach out to them, and I think the timing is also interesting. I've personally kind of taken a step back, which is neither here nor there. I was on the front lines mainly because of the patriarch of the family ran into some difficult medical and other issues and sadly passed away last year. So I stepped in as a sort of interim CEO and tried to get him back on the right path. I'm thinking I might actually either one of the sons, Tim Holland, or I'm thinking that the quality route is the way to go here, and just kind of kicking it around. We've got really Camilla Allen is great. She was a new hire that I think that might even be better, because I am thinking out loud here, but when things were done a certain way for 35 years, that might be a little bit the tougher path than going through quality that's new and said, look, we've got to look what we learned by buying that new, whatever, the new Desma machine, the new, whatever, we bought a few pieces of equipment that really changed. It took a lot of the heat off the shops and certainly took the heat off customer service and sales listening to the calls. So
yeah. The way I'm structuring it right now too is it's my pitch, I guess, if you want to put it that way, is that we're looking for partners that are willing to take part in a pilot program.
Yep.
And by bringing it around to a pilot program where it's kind of more of on the demo side than it is, it's easy for me. I mean, I have units here. It's easy for me to send the units and do a virtual assist on install and or go there myself. That's what I've been doing here locally, just because it's drivable and it's easy for me.
Yep.
And they really appreciate it. And the guy that I just did an install with, I showed him how to put the first one in, and then I went over to put the gateway and the router up so we could get a signal. By the time I got done doing that, like 10, 15 minutes, he had already gone down and put all the other sensors in. And he was just like, this is so easy. He's like, I can't believe how easy it was. So,
I'm just thinking, this is maybe another, because you've got CCAT. So is CCAT, have you talked Ron into utilizing any of this? Because that's another, I mean, how many wonderful people are in and out of his shops or labs?
So that relationships, as I understand it, I'm supposed to have a conversation with them in the next week or two. But I believe that's still at a kind of an early stage. I think a webinar is being planned for the CCAT community. So there hasn't been a transaction yet. So I think that's all in process.
So the thought, I'm sorry, because it just popped into my head. I'm thinking, well, you could do two things, right? One is the shop by shop approach and trying to go that way, or going through, as you were hinting at, maybe Bill, is the industry associations, right? These advanced manufacturing working groups, or manufacturing in general. But boy, if you get a high visibility like CCAT, but what popped into my head was in North Carolina, are you working at all or aware of Brad Keselowski? He's got CAM, KAM. It's like a paradise. The place is gorgeous. And so he's this race car driver that, you know, always worked in the shops and whatever, and has just a brilliant, I'm just typing here, Statesville, North Carolina. So I'd have to look at a map but this place is like, if you can get in there, he's got the best of the best in equipment. So yes, it's a short-term sale potential, but having that visibility in one of the premier sort of advanced manufacturing labs is, you know, better than 50 sales calls, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 500.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah. So the other avenue is really just, so to Bill's point, like we're just exploring avenues for channel partners, because that's where I feel like we're going to get the most traction.
Yep.
I have a good friend of mine that he's kind of in the sunset years of his lean consulting days. So he's been making some introductions. I spoke with somebody yesterday from Mass MEP.
Yep.
Which is an organization. So I sent him information and I said, love to, you know, see how that goes. And then he's going to try to get me at least a name for the MEP rep here in North Carolina that I could reach out to. That's one avenue. Another one, which I'm very optimistic about, and once we get some establishment here in the US for Harris Digital, it's going to be much easier, but I have a supplier agreement that's open-ended that needs to be completed for MSC.
Got it.
And
Yep.
they have a supplier program that's highly developed, and it goes beyond like the Grainger and Fastenals, because they recognize that the more people they can put on the payroll, the more money MSC can make. So they have a whole separate department for onboarding new talent. So and they're really excited about the platform because there's nothing out there that can be sold out of the box like this.
Yep.
And so I really see a huge opportunity to get that pushed through, is that MSC relationship, because that could give us, even if we have attrition of customers that come on board and don't like the equipment and throw it back,
Right.
it gives us those reps of getting the equipment out, and it expands us to their entire network, and we can hook our cart to their marketing platform as well.
Yeah. So the whole channel discussion is probably worth some time as well. And, you know, that's because it is really, the closest link for me was my experience with EAO Corporation. I don't know if you ever heard of EAO. They were really probably best known for push button switches and emergency stop switches, but we evolved into a broader human machine interface company. So we were working with a lot of the automation folk, all the way from the Siemens of the world to, I don't know, Heidenhaus and all that. So all the places that you would want to be ultimately, I think. And because we were so broad-based, you know, and again, small company. So I'm not talking about this huge organization, but we had the relationships because it was still component on one end all the way up to, let's say, subsystems where we might integrate a industrial PC into an interface. The component side, we push much more through distribution channels, right? That was going to be the DigiKeys, the Mausers, Newarks, Allieds. So much more in that direction. But for the system side, it was much more of a consultative sales approach. So, you know, more direct sales through key account management. But what I'm thinking about is, just like you said, I mean, Allied, for instance, Allied is definitely all over automation. And I think that they could be a very interesting sort of broad level distribution part. They're fantastic to work with, maybe tough to get into, and maybe you're not ready quite yet. Like you're because you've got to be attentive to customer service along the way. Even if people fall out, that's fine, but you don't want them falling out and cursing, you know,
Allied.
with,
we don't want a black mark on their record. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but boy, the Allied, and you know, there are others in that sort of Mineric, for instance, or now Cayman, I guess Kaman, which is
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut, by the way, as well, Bill, at the top level. Those could be potentially great channel partners for sort of because you say it's like, it's a box, right? Like it is that easy,
Mm-hmm.
or close enough to being that easy, that industry group, especially I think about Mineric within Cayman. Mineric was so great at all that machine control and, in a diverse range. They were everything from semiconductor equipment to packaging to textile. They were everywhere,
Yeah.
but also very hands-on. So your sales reps or salespeople
Had deep
had,
knowledge.
the depth of knowledge.
And that's really what I'm looking for. I don't think MSC is probably not going to give us that level of support, but I also look at it as like they're going to give us exposure, but it's not going to be disheartening, or it's not going to blow the doors off the scene.
Right.
Because this is still kind of a new thing for people to actually search for.
Yep.
But I could see it bringing in 12, maybe possibly 20 sales in a quarter, just being affiliated. But when you talk about having a sales rep that we could do cross training with, that could be boots on the ground, that are going into clients to do a switch replacement or something else, and then all of a sudden they have this product that they can upsell in their back pocket, and they know a little bit about it. That's now you just created a sales force that's way larger than
Yep.
one or two guys sitting in Connecticut.
So I'm going to hop in,
Yeah.
a little bit just because I think at least our experience has been, and I think Lance, you hinted at this as well, we have to have some traction. We have to have some really good case studies in order to get the attention of the bigger distributors and so on. And I guess I'm more concerned, or what I'd like to do is, at least for this conversation, focus on sort of the next 3 and 6 months and building that battle plan, in part from your feedback, Lance. And I guess maybe the first question here is, the vertical, certainly we've identified the injection molding as one. Are there others that we would want to look at, particularly, looking here in Connecticut? Are there any others that, with this feature set, that you think are kind of most relevant?
Yeah, I suspect that packaging might be interesting as well. I'm thinking conveyor systems, where you don't necessarily have ultra high speed, but on the other hand, if you do solve, or you come up with a creative way to address the textile market, and you can monitor a spindle, and it won't matter what kind of spindle or motor it is,
Mm-hmm.
if you've solved that. So it would be great to handle the machine shop, and machine shop meaning semi-automated, the Haas type equipment, Haas, Herco, whoever, Hardinge. And I think you can do that. Like, you don't necessarily have to measure right at the motor or the spindle. I think there are other things that you can measure, because it's programmable equipment, right? So there are other things you can monitor, just the movement and the manipulation or whatever.
Yeah.
But from a Connecticut viewpoint, Bill, I mean, that's going to be the number one. We have some injection molding market, but it's really tied more to med device and other markets than it is to aerospace. But aerospace is huge. And so the play that's going through my head, maybe I should state it, is, for sure, there is a macro trend, whatever moniker you want to put, industry 4.0, manufacturing 4.0, that's going on. What your solution could bring is a way to, sort of claim participation in that revolution, right? It's, you're tying that small shop into something. Hey, we're not going full-fledged and going through all these little things and integrating all our equipment, but we are tied into the cloud, and we are monitoring through an Azure network. And that's pretty cool. Like, that brings a small company, and they can tell the Sikorskis and UTCs or whoever of the world that they're taking steps. I think that's a huge selling point.
Well, maybe not only that, but they could say, we did it this week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you know,
So
hey,
it's
you
not
big
the
guys can
perfect-
play around. Good luck integrating SAP with your new whatever
Right.
hoity-toity platform.
Bring your checkbook. Bring your
Yeah.
checkbook.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that, yeah, the ability to use the adoption as a marketing tool is really
Mhm.
what you're saying.
Mhm.
I mean, I love the idea of a regional approach. I have to admit that that's one of the biggest challenges, and Bill knows I harp on this all the time. The well, it's not just European; it's international businesses underestimate the impact of the vast geographic region we have here, and so sure, you could set up manufacturers reps all over North America, blah blah blah, but you're going to be so tied up in answering questions, whatever. So a regional approach to get the traction sounds really good. And boy, if you can get a partner like CCAT in Connecticut, and you know, I don't know who the MEP is for North Carolina, but even above and beyond that, if you can get, um, you know, Cam, I guess, Brad Kozlowski, or any other really high visibility client, but you know, an advanced manufacturing lab is really interesting because they're getting all the, you know, your customers are coming in there.
Mhm.
So that's
Becomes a
really
showroom.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a showroom for how it's operating. And I think that's really the indicator that I've seen is that who's willing to let us come through the doors and try some stuff.
Yep.
You know?
And universities, you know, there are, like I might have mentioned, I'm at Sacred Heart University. I've got some offices there, and yeah, they've got a very nice maker space, but it's an educational facility, but hopefully they will have lots of capstone projects and other things with outside companies, you know, entrepreneurs and small businesses. So that could be an avenue. Um, you know, I certainly know the people there. Um, yeah, I like the visibility of the labs, but you need to do both. So the regional approach, because you're right, you know, getting really into an allied out of the gate would drown any company.
Mhm.
Um, I think, you know, it
Yeah,
would be a
yeah,
lot.
no.
Let's say
It
that.
would be a lot. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
well, well
and I guess
executed.
our experience is they're not going to want to talk to us, and I think you said as much, Lance. Until we've got a proof statement that makes them, you know, it reduces their risk profile. So you mentioned universities, certainly CCAT. Are there certain associations that you think are kind of low hanging fruit that we, you know, ought to participate in as well?
Sure. I do think, just to mention the MEP organization, you know, so every state, and you could probably bridge from North Carolina up to New England and
Mhm.
just find out who the MEP is for each location. You'll find that in Connecticut, I'll save you some time. And I honestly, at this point, wouldn't bother. Our MEP is, um, um, oh my God, a Constep. So, you know, so I would say, you know, CCAT is by far the better way to go there. I don't
Cool.
know. We're unusual in that regard. I just think CCAT is sort of the technology wing, and the others are getting in and, you know, outsourcing a lot of the lean manufacturing consulting work. But that's not the place for you in Connecticut. I think MEP is where you belong. That could be a great starting point for each state.
Yep.
Um, and then organizations, you know, it it's a mixture, right? The knowledge base in these organizations is tremendous, and you'll get real user feedback and experience. I don't know how valuable that time will be, you know, if you're really trying to establish maybe participation and listening in and meeting folks. But if you're really trying to get traction, I think, boy, I'm probably unique in that regard. I try to participate in these organizations, or associations, but I'm not usually diving so deep from a sales perspective. It's nice to sort of co-market and have these problem solving working groups and things, but I'm not so sure from a sales. I'm just picturing Connecticut, for instance. Absolutely, there are the Undersea Consortium and AMEC, the manufacturing group. Advanced CT is a little bit high level, they talk, or manufacturing CT, they talk at a little bit higher level about economic development and job creation and training. I don't know. I'm not so sure you'd get a tremendous benefit from that.
Mhm.
Just my gut.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
So we just need to maybe experiment a little bit in that area. But I think what you're underscoring is the importance of really spending quality time with CCAT and building that relationship and digging into their community as much as we can.
I think the visibility, and he's outside of Connecticut, right? Ron learned that a long time ago. It's just, if he's going to be a not-for-profit, but he's not getting the funding from the state of Connecticut, he's entitled to get his business from wherever. So you get within Connecticut, top level technical and great facility, but also a little bit outside. It's not necessarily all over the world, but it's definitely getting exposure to New York and the broader arena.
New England,
Sure.
New England strong.
And are there any events that you like that you think whether it's industry, local industry events that trade shows or whatnot that would be good to connect into?
Yeah, the local shows I have a little bit mixed on. Maybe when the bigger ones come into like Javits or whatever, and unless you consider Chicago local, but
Probably not.
all the big shows come in now to New York. It's kind of a funny place still to have shows. I don't know about North Carolina, but Connecticut itself or New England, there's not that much. Obviously, Boston also entertains some pretty decent, maybe electronics oriented shows. And that's maybe the other area of experience I am thinking about that could be a subset. It's a little bit easier to target too, that the people that are in sort of the whether you call it printed circuit board assembly or surface mount technology. So SMTA, Surface Mount Technology Association, or IPC. Those are great areas because you're usually not talking about, although it's automated and it's a production line, it's not generally high speed, other than the pick and place is ultra high speed, but you've got ovens, you've got other things that also need to be monitored. X-ray equipment, AOI, that's my background is more on the X-ray side. So usually not ultra high speed. I think pick and place is probably the only thing that's really, soldering, wave soldering, ovens, things like that, and a printed circuit board assembly and production line could be great. Easy to target because it's all within the SMTA umbrella, and we've got some great folks there. Of course, I can't remember her name, but she's fantastic up in Connecticut. Oh my God, I'll get you the name, but she's president of the SMTA for Connecticut, or maybe for New England.
Well, and we need to talk anyway, so I'll ping you tomorrow or Thursday. I'll just pop you a note and see what time you got.
Yep.
We'll catch up. But this has been super. And Josh, is any questions that you have before we give Lance the rest of his day back?
Yeah, no, I don't. I think you covered a lot of validated points on my part for the direction that we're driving the bus, and the value that we can bring for these different organizations. So I appreciate that, and your excitement and enthusiasm kind of shine through there, and that helped me as well. So it's always good to get a bump up when you're out there grinding away, to have somebody go, hey, looks really good. Like this could really do something. So, so I think your advice is good. I think taking an effort to just dig into the MEP org in every state, and then just turn and burn these guys until one of them says the same enthusiasm that you have, and now all of a sudden we got ourselves somebody that's going to be an advocate for us within their community. So I think that's really what we should be doing is just continually having these conversations with these different channel partners, and whoever becomes the most excited is the one that we'll spend the most time with. And then on the backside, obviously doing one-on-one, cold calling. So I appreciate the insights, Lance, your time, of course, and keep us in mind if you see opportunity or something comes across your desk, or you talk to a colleague and you're networking and they're like, I got this problem, and you're like, hey, check out Harris Digital. Just ping us, and
Yep.
like I can help you take over the conversation. You can pass it off to me, but we would love the opportunity to do a pilot with anybody that's interested in seeing the product. It's very easy to install, 30 to 40 minutes, and you can have it up and running and flowing data. And in a matter of 3 days, you can have access to a dashboard that's going to track cycle time. So, I mean, it's pretty big value in a very short amount of time. So it's low risk for us to be able to exercise some of these pilot programs. So just keep in touch and, ping me if anything comes up for sure.
I mean, my enthusiasm's genuine. I'm definitely not a BS guy, and I will tell you, running a small shop and dealing with the chaos of it in a sort of a mixed modality environment.
Mhm.
If you could tie it all together with a singular dash, I think it's really powerful, and it is that bridge to manufacturing 4.0. So you've got something, and sure, some more bells and whistles. There will always be an evolution. So, and feel free, maybe through Bill or whatever. I'm always happy to, if you've got ideas, you're marching down a path, or you need contacts at a certain OEM, or which is, sorry, that's the last thing we didn't touch on. I'll leave it in
Yeah,
1 minute
of course.
here.
Yeah.
So we're talking channel strategy, whatever, but
Yeah.
you could take the OEM approach. That's an interesting thing about the United States. We don't have, other than Haas Automation, there aren't these massive manufacturers. So there's so many companies that are just building 30, 50, 100 machines a year. If you can get in and have them integrate your platform into their equipment, it could also be, now you're talking steady, and there are tons of them, tons.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's a good line. All right, cool.
Cool.
Awesome.
I have
I'm
one
good,
last
Bill.
question for you, Lance. Are you in Marion or are you in Connecticut?
Yeah, I tried to show it doesn't work so well, but my new beach is behind me here in Marion. So sail by and say hello. I'll hand you a margarita on the way or something.
I was guessing with the wind. I can't see out the window, but I was guessing with the window.
I didn't notice it got brighter. It was pouring rain before, so now it's just white space. But I'm right on the
Cool.
water here, Bill. I rarely get up here these days, but it's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So
Cool.
we definitely have to catch up, and it will tie back to Josh's business. I'm definitely expanding roles in advanced manufacturing in a variety of areas. So,
Cool.
the university approach, the Georgia Techs and Virginia Techs of the world, I'll be more involved in those areas. So I view that visibility in the advanced manufacturing lab and university. You get such great exposure. So
Very
helps.
cool. Well, I'll ping you tonight, and we'll get a date on the calendar. But yeah, let's catch up for sure.
Excellent. Josh, thanks. And
Thank you.
I have to apologize just one more time for that was very unprofessional. I don't know. I got caught up with contractors, and so.
Well, that's the market we're in, right? If you don't pay attention to the contract, you still go on to the next.
Oh my God. That's
The name of the game is follow up fast, Lance, and you did. You followed up in the same day in a matter of an hour. So
all good.
is forgiven in my world. Follow
all
up
right.
is key. You
Appreciate
did it.
that.
So, thanks.
All right. Thanks so much, Lance.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Take
You
care.
got it. Bye now.